Johnny, people talk a lot about the Zulu influence on your music, but I want to take one step back. Your mom, Muriel, was a singer, and presumably at home you were immersed in what? That perhaps paved the way for the connections you were able to make.
Okay. My mom was a cabaret and a jazz singer, and she after she had had her run, she started to work for a gramophone record company, GRC, which was Gallo Records, CBS, and she became the public relations officer. And she would bring back albums long before they're going to be released. She would get them to set them up like 3 or 4 months before. And she also had access to an incredible catalogue of LPs, and she would bring them home. And there were certain moments which were important to me. Pete Seeger brought out an album which was basically like folk music from around the world, in the languages. There was Russian, there was Hindu, you know, South American. It was from all over the world. And he would talk and say, this is what this means. And then he would play it on a banjo, just vocal and banjo, but he would sing in that language. And I was just taken by that. I thought, this is a possibility. The world is open for young people, but there's no way to get into it. They can see it's open, but they don't find, there's no path. They have to find their own path into the world. And we get this from music, and we get it from stories, and we get it from our dad, and stories of when he grew up and how he got into it, and our uncles and our friends, and all of this information when I grew up. That's how people, and so this for me, suddenly it was a possibility to sing in Zulu. Pete Seeger singing in Russian, you know, and he was a famous folk singer. And that was a breakthrough for me. And I thought, I can do this. And then my stepfather, Dan Pienaar, was a crime reporter. And he had a massive Kwela music collection. So I grew up with Kwela music, Township Jive, Pete Seeger, Irish folk music, and then went into Jethro Tull, and Jethro Tull being a mixture of jazz, folk music, and rock.
Celtic and the flute.
All of that stuff. Yeah. So there was this swirling of possibilities for a young person, that these are all possible ways of getting into the musical world. And that's very important, to be exposed to that.
So by the time you meet Charlie Mzila, your first guitar teacher, 14 years old, outside of Yeovil Cafe, you are fertile ground for something new.
And I saw, when I heard him play, because I was learning guitar, I saw that this guitar is tuned differently and played differently. And I thought, and I listened, and I thought, this is a unique indigenous guitar genre of music, like the blues is to America. This Maskanda music, well, I didn't know it was Maskanda, I didn't know what to call it. I was just being, the raw music was being exposed to me, and I thought, oh, this is the music of my country. Yeah, you know, I don't want to play, you know, music from the West and from Europe and from America. This is the music that belongs to me here. And I asked him to teach me, and as I got into it more, I realized these guys had reconceptualized and reconfigured the guitar and made demands on it that all they did is they used the first 5 frets, and the rest of the guitar they never used.
Yes.
And they got this very complicated picking, and you know, no chords, just thumb and forefinger. This was like a babbling brook of notes, and then they would sing against that. So that was a breakthrough for me, that I recognized it. Because you see, in the 60s, there was music in the streets all the time, which is the background to one's life. Maskanda music, Shangani music, people, with a lot of street musicians, but nobody saw them. It was just somebody
making... just traffic.
Yeah, they were just traffic.
Yeah.
And I saw Charlie. And it's funny, because the greeting in Zulu is Sawubona. We, my clan and myself, see you. It's a very important thing to see things. And it's a very powerful greeting, is to say, I see you.
Johnny, I'm going to quote you back to yourself. You said, I discovered that through music I could connect very deeply and profoundly in a continuous way. And that for me was a kind of a salvation.
Yes.
Salvation from what?
From the issue of who I am, who I could be, what I could be as an adolescent. I was born in England. I grew up in Zimbabwe on a farm. I went to 6 schools in 5 years in 3 different countries, in Zambia and in Lusaka.
And you were only 12 by then?
Yeah. So I was, you know, I was pretty confused, and I was not, you know, I was looking for something to understand who and what I could be. And music was always a solace for me. It was always a place I could escape to and associate myself with and immerse myself in and find peace and find some kind of connection. And what I loved about the Maskanda music was this was a really tough, hardy, rural people who came to the city to work, and they brought their culture with them, and they were proud of it. And it gave them a sense of who they were, very strongly. And I was actually jealous of that. I wanted to be able to feel so strongly about these wars or these weddings or these observations. And it was a street music, so it's songs which are written about their observations of life from a particular angle. And they were very, very strong and very committed. And I was just blown away by that. And through that, it enabled me to develop my own sense of an African identity. Through the language, through the music, and then through the physicality of the dance. That was the other kind of final clip that clipped it together for me. So it was more than just music. It was more than just, you know, enjoying a session with a black musician, you know, playing traditional music. It was actually something that changed me and transformed me, and it showed me the possibilities of what I could be and how I could construct myself in this world.